Um, its place is full of prehistoric remains, stone pillars, stone circles, animal shelters, and things like that, covered with these things called tors. Tors are mounds. The whole place is a sort of peat bog, and where the soil gets eroded, the underlying granite appears. Spent a lot of time at Exeter and also at Torbay. Um, but then when I moved to Torbay, which was further to the west, I got there in 1965, and that DJ is the answer to the question you asked, what was the date of my first dive? Uh, so this was taken the September prior to that, because I had just got there and they invited me to join the boat because they were going on a dive to the Eddystone. Now this Eddystone lighthouse, 13 miles off Plymouth, built in 1881. But the interesting thing is that the fellow who built it, Sir James Douglas, in 1873 built the Great Bassels Lighthouse, 6 miles off the south coast of Sri Lanka. You can see the resemblance between the two lighthouses. Anyway, yeah, my first dive was to 75 feet. We didn't plan on going down 75 feet. Scuba dive. My first free dive was when I was about 15 years old off Kalpeti. Anyway, so yes, I was never been so scared in all my life. Couldn't find the shallow thing, the overcast. No, as DJ said, no GPS in those days. So just echo sounders, depth sounders, and show lights. And when the weather is bad, you can't see what you want to go. Now, a little bit about the equipment that we had. Most of us had twin hose regulators. The two-stage single hose regulators were just coming in, and there were a few, but most of us were using the twin hose regulators. No BCDs. Most didn't use any form of flotation device, but I started using this yacht sailor's life jacket. It's folded up into a small packet. It has a mouth inflation tube, so you can inflate that to the mouth. But more importantly, it had a carbon dioxide cylinder inside with a trigger. And in emergency, which I had sometime, you squeeze the packet and this thing just blows up. And I was very thankful that I had this, because a few years later, we rather late in the year when the water was very cold, the boat couldn't come and get us, and we were drifting towards the Isle of Wight, getting colder and colder and colder, and I was able to deploy the life jacket till the boat came and picked us up. My fingers were so cold I couldn't unzip my wetsuit, and it had to be done for me. And one of my friends remarked, "Malik, we never thought that you go blue, but you are blue." I very short-sighted, and I had difficulty. Before that, the next development was the Fenzi. This was one of the early designs of an adjustable buoyancy life jacket, one that can be inflated on the bottom. It's a French make. At that time, it was very expensive, and only a few people had Fenzis. It's got the mouth inflation tube, as you can see. Underneath there is a small cylinder that you fill with air from your tank using a yoke connection. And if you want to inflate the life jacket, you just crack the cylinder and you can inflate it. So having been filled from your tank, it's got enough pressure to work underwater. That's a cannonball that the Brian is holding. There was a place off Torquay, off Bournemouth, where there were lots of cannonballs on the ground, and one of the things we used to do was to go there on cannonball hunts. I was very short-sighted, and when I removed my glasses, I couldn't see very well until I found that it was possible to get frames that stuck onto the inside of the mask with suckers. Later on, when the low-volume masks came in, the lenses had to be stuck on to the things, unless you got one of the masks, which we didn't have at that time, the mask with the prescription lenses that would fit into the mask itself. So a friend of mine in this country used to make those lenses for me. Yeah. We used to dive mostly for lobsters, crabs, and also for the crawfish. Spiny lobsters are called crawfish there in the UK. These fellows are usually in deep water, 120 feet or so we used to go. That was an enormous lobster that was caught off the Eddystone lighthouse. Some of us used to dive till very late in the year. I couldn't manage more than 10 or 15 minutes in the water, but it was something to do. And this small lobster, which I had to put back, was caught very late in the year. That's another one. Sometimes we camped out on the canvas. These were the crabs that we used to catch. And we used to go out into deep water off Salcombe to collect these large sea urchins. This is about 6 inches in diameter. These are 4 of them which I was able to bring to Sri Lanka. Very colorful. 2 more? 20. 20 more. Can do, I think. Anyway, so now I came back in '69, worked in the Colombo Municipal Council for a bit, joined the Petroleum Corporation. These are the plaques that I got when I retired. I value this one particularly because it was presented to me by the transport division, the Bowser drivers. When I joined, this was a very strong LSSP Communist Party trade union, and they gave me a torrid time because I wanted to work as a doctor as I had been trained to do. They would prefer that I worked according to what they wanted and how they wanted it done. But over the years, they realized that I was straight. So something that you can be as strict as you like, provided you are competent in your job and you don't have any skeletons in your cupboard. So that is a message for survival in a corporation or maybe even in a government service. 2 achievements that I was able to get there. One was advancement in the medical field and becoming president of the Medical Association in '92. And the second was involved in the field of cycle racing as an official. I used to cycle to Colon Nava now and again. The workers used to be horrified to see the doctor cycling to work because that was something that you shouldn't do. But some of them used to join me cycling back after work. One of them was a racing cyclist, and he introduced me to the Cycling Association. And I promoted him in the corporation as long as I took charge of the thing. So I was technical director, as it were, of the one-man Petroleum Corporation cycling team for a number of years. Got involved in organizing training courses for riders, for officials, and then doing up the rules, because there were no rules. One person had a copy of what he claimed were the rules, but nobody else had a copy, and so he was able to run the whole thing. Fortunately, when Ronnie Rimmel was finance minister and the president of the club, we were able to change things and make the cycling federations cycling rules. And later on, I also oversaw the formation of the national cycling rules. Unfortunately, these never get accepted, because the moment somebody does something, there's another group to come and pull them down and change it by making petitions or going to courts. You see that happening in sports even today, rugby, and so many others, including Cycling Federation is also Kotauda. There's a ministry appointed thing, but it's another group that is accepted by the International Cycling Union. So, yeah, various jobs that I did, course organizer and so on. Race director was the highest thing. This was the first SARC cycling championship. Unfortunately, it's the only SARC cycling championship, because again, the same thing happened after